that's about it.
There we go. So, and folks, obviously I'm Rob. If you don't know who I am, where have you been all morning? All right, we should be on the next stream now. I need to just reload this. Gents, we're going to get going and have some fun on the first panel. We are talking about Andor and the Brits today, so we're going to have some fun with that. This was an idea from Elliot.
It was, although I should give Becky some credit as well, because I think we came up with the idea on the train back from a trip to Oxford to visit Camille. So, there, joint credit.
Okay, joint credit. You can make sure I'm on camera now because apparently.
Joint credit and joint, responsibility.
All right. So, did you want to start, Elliot? The basic idea of where you wanted to. You had an idea to.
Yeah.
Didn't you?
My basic idea. Hope everyone on the chat can hear. Hello, everyone on the chat. Hello.
I'll keep an eye on that.
So yeah, I just had the idea that with us having Andor and Elaine and the whole, Camelin family coming up for season 2 on the TV show, I thought it would be interesting, seeing as this is taking place in Britain, to see how people thought the portrayal. Okay, I'll hold it. Hello. So I'll repeat that. With Andor coming on for season TV show, I thought it'd be interesting to see how they portray it, and if there are anything that we think that is quintessentially British that they could include. Because I think, as Jordan said, it was kind of based on Britain and particularly accents and the way they talk. So that was kind of the idea around this panel.
I was about to say, I'm going to speak into the box mic. I'm going to be that guy. Does anybody have an idea they want to throw out straight away based on that? Something really British. Fish and chip. 1 second. This is why the box mic is here. I'm going to go running around the room. So, Laura, catch.
An absolute must.
The Brits like it. Does Andor like it? I need to get rid of the windows.
I could see that. I think that it would be a great idea for the Queen's Guards to all be beefeaters, especially when Elaine's on the throne and you've got all of her. Those Birgitta in a beefeater costume would be fantastic. Birgitta the beefeater.
Yes, that was glorious. Yes, I think that might be just like the best idea I have heard so far. Come up with more. John. Yes. Yes. There we go. Are you tweeting that, Laura? Hashtag. Good. John, as our Andor expert, is there anything British that you've noticed? Because he's not British himself. He is.
Wait, when did that happen?
No, I meant like, obviously, for the purposes of this panel, he's not British. He's Andoran. Is there anything British you really want to see? Andor's like, no, get rid of the UK. Go. The Brexit, go. You know.
I'd be quite interested to see what they do with the accents.
I love this idea. I had this idea too.
Yeah,
go for it. Sorry.
Well, right, sorry. What will they do with the accents? Will they go complete Queen's English kind of, or King's English now? Oh, sorry.
Anna, it's your English.
That's mine, yeah.
Yes. Anna is Queen Anna, by the way. So it doesn't come from the passing queen just now. It comes from a different situation. So it's still Queen Anna. But carry on, sorry.
No, it would just be interesting to see what they do with different accents. Obviously, there may be a temptation to get rid of an accent altogether. Maybe they'll make Elaine speak with a French accent. I don't know.
I'm going
It's
to
something
poll the room now with a show of hands. Do we want one accent in Andor? Do we want, like the UK has, 1,000 accents? Hands up if you think one accent. 3.5, 4. No, Mr. Z, I like that. Yeah, there we go. Multiple accents. Okay, we like multiple accents. Even Katie in the back likes multiple accents. Okay.
But like multiple British accents.
No. I mean, strangely, that's what I meant, Carolina. Multiple British. As an American, she's going to throw out there. I see Andrew at the back here. Where do they currently ride? Are carts on the right or the left in Andor?
Well, none of the roads are big enough to fit 2 cars down, so
So what happens with 2 leads?
Which side of the car can they sit on?
Oh, yeah, which side of the car is the driver sitting on? In the middle. In the middle?
If you're riding
That's
a car,
far too obvious.
if you're riding a car,
Try to get him on the spot here.
So in Camelin's London, where's Manchester?
1 second.
So in Camelin's London, where's Manchester?
it's got to be 4 Kings.
4 Kings.
Got to be 4 Kings.
Do we like 4 Kings? As Manchester?
Yeah. Is there a lot of pubs?
Is there a lot of pubs? Well, yeah. 4 Kings?
There is
4 Kings have a lot of pubs, do we?
there is a surprising amount of pubs in 4 Kings for a place which you've only visited once. I'd like to think so. I'd like it to be the same kind of climate as we have here, but it's I can imagine they'll make Camelin seem quite sunny when they first go there.
It's got to look nice.
Yeah.
I think it would be a bold move for the production team to have the first establishing shot of Camelin be just like dreary and miserable, but I'd appreciate it. I'd appreciate the authenticity.
Is that a red and white question thrown out there, John? Which side do you fall on, sir?
Well, I'm Cornish, so it's it's got to be a Tudor roast, surely. For
Diplomatic sake.
yeah.
The first point made there was about the Manchester logo being a bumblebee, a worker bee, sorry, to be specific. If you've seen that, you might have seen a few bees around, folks. Someone's scared of sorry, you scared of bees? Someone's scared of bees. There was someone who said that. Anyway, doesn't matter.
Well, I don't think you see many bees in Andor.
No,
Give-
bees handle. Well, that was the point. Manchester can't be 4 Kings because the bees of Elliot. So that's where I was going with that. Sorry, I took a long way.
Well, yeah, and bee-hilted knives and all that. And
Yes, be hilted knives. So yeah,
Yeah.
not 4 Kings, but we like 4 Kings. That was a good suggestion. So
They're saying they can't hear the box mic.
you can't hear the box mic. Thank you. Okay, well I'll have a look at that. It's a good job I've been saying everything. Rob is really thanks.
technical break.
Technical break. The box mic is on, so I don't know why it's not. John's doing tech. Okay. Elliot?
I was going to ask, would anyone be like enjoy the idea of just having corgis in the background, like running around Camelin Castle?
We like the idea of corgis.
Should be a corgi.
I'm sorry, say that again?
Hopper should be a corgi.
Hopper as a corgi.
Save it for the Looney Theory.
Yeah,
class
that's a-
tomorrow. We're getting good material here, folks. I like this.
Nice warm up.
Did I go too far, perhaps? No. Okay, we're just hitting a reset. Folks at home, we're hitting a reset button, but what was called out was Hopper as a corgi, so we're getting Looney Theories already. Is there anything... I love the accent idea, but is there an accent in particular you want to hear, folks? Wow, Linny as a Scouse. Okay. We're all familiar with a Scouse accent. Some of you probably won't be. Does anyone watch Great British Bake Off? Lizzie last year. That's all you need to Google Lizzie Great British Bake Off and you will see a Scouse accent. And oof, that's an accent. That's okay. Who does? That's Basil for the Americans in the room, by the way. Basil Gill. I do this to the Americans all the time. I do, yes. This is it's the boss telling me no, folks. Okay, so we've got Basil Gill with the Cockney accent. What other characters do we want? I'm on an accent train now, so we're going to go with it. You want to hear Welsh?
But not the kind that makes them sound dull, but the nice musical.
The musical Welsh. Elliot, is there anyone comes to mind, you think, for a Welsh accent?
I was thinking, I don't know. I'm imagining sort of like I would have thought the two as people kind of well because there is a bit more way, like more.
So Wales is out of the way there. That's what he's saying.
Is it though? Have you looked at the maps? Pretty much in the middle.
Yeah, two rivers in the middle. That's a good point. Yeah.
They don't see themselves as connect. They don't see themselves as part. That's the thing. They don't see themselves as part of the whole, which is.
Our demand should have a Welsh accent. Okay, we're sticking with Andor here is what we're going for, folks, by the way, before we get into other countries too much. The actor, yes. Who's good when... Julian Lewis-Jones is the actor playing Bail Doman. Okay, see, this is good with the names. So are they? Well, they could be. How are we doing on the John? Getting there. Thank God for John. I've got to run over and ask. Say this again.
Hi. So I think it would be quite to have someone with a strong Lancashire accent, you know, like Fred Dibner had, where they actually had to put subtitles up for the rest of the UK to understand him.
Okay, that's interesting. I mean, folks probably have to have subtitles up for me sometimes, so that's a lot. Elliot, what do you think about subtitles for a Lancashire accent?
A must again, yeah.
A must.
Just, yeah. I'm just trying to think as well about like word pronunciation because I know we're saying basil and basil and all that. I'm wondering how they could construct a scene with Elaine saying as many of these sort of like contended words as possible. Perhaps like she's bath. Oh, that's a good one. I was imagining her in the kitchen, like doing a recipe or something, just for the sake of it.
Just for the sake of the sentence.
Yeah, and they're gonna have to have, aluminium tin foil to wrap up the.
We have another question at the back. Shall I run with a regular mic? Or? Okay, so Elaine makes scones, but they're scones. The cream jam thirst debate. Okay, so we all know Keanu. Sorry? Only goat's milk cream. Okay, well, now we're getting really picky on the debate here, aren't we? So we all know Keira Coveney's playing Elaine. No spoilers there, although this is, all common knowledge. Would she say scones or scones? She would say scones, so we think Kira's going to say scones? Yeah. She's going to have a posh accent, do we think? Does she look like she'd have a posh accent? Yes. That name sounds Irish, doesn't it? Yeah, I'm not familiar with whether she's Irish or not, but the name sounds Irish. Okay. Scone. She would. Could we see Elaine with a slightly Irish accent? Woo, silence. Oh, okay. So Anna's putting in there that the peasants have the posh accent, so King's English, and the Queen. Yeah, it is Andor, Queen's English. Good point. Yeah, see, so you weren't there wrong. You weren't wrong there, John. Queen's English, see? Yes. And then the royalty have like the peasant accent, so to speak. So now we've got Gareth Bryn with I don't know, maybe a Cornish accent? Gareth Bryn with a Cornish accent? What do you think about that, John? Proper West Country. That's okay, John. Are we working? Oh, you need to transition it. Oh, audience. Okay, one sec. I'll let you carry on. You talk about Gareth Brin and that tech stuff.
I'm just really enjoying now that, according to what we've discussed in this panel, the opening introduction scene to Andor will be fading in on a really dreary, rainy background, cut to the kitchen, and Elaine is making basil and oregano scones. It's going to be brilliant.
I think Gareth Brin having a Cornish accent would, in a strange way, elevate his status. It would quite, because, as everyone here, every Brit knows, Cornish accents are notoriously, as someone from down that part of the way, notoriously always been used to represent someone of a lower status, lower quality education and all that. But to have someone as high ranking as Basil Gill having a Cornish accent could be really fun.
Gareth Brin.
Yeah, sorry, getting confused. But yeah, Gareth Brin. Having a Cornish accent. Yeah, the one thing I'm interested in seeing is how people pronounce their A's, because it's different all across the UK about how people pronounce A's in certain words. Like I say bath and glass, and I always get called out for it when I live in London, and people notice it instantly how I'm pronouncing it. So it could be fun to see how they, if they're going down the accent route, to see how they play with it, how they make different people have different characteristics from around Britain. I think just a Geordie accent could be fun. I don't know who you could give that to. Maybe what's he called? Elaine's bodyguard. The dark friend.
David Hamilton. Mellor.
Yeah, Mellor. Him having a Geordie accent could be fun. It's just like Geordie accents are so happy all the time. The same with Welsh accents. They've got a sing-song kind of vibe.
It would be a good contrast.
And then having someone with a dark friend like that have a Welsh or a Geordie accent, it's such a juxtaposition. Could be fun.
I'm really hoping that that the production team is taking this just as seriously as we all are. If there's inconsistency with people saying bath and bathe depending on their station, then that's gonna, I'm gonna be writing some.
Gonna be some complaints.
some big letters. I also go on.
I was going to ask a completely new question,
Well, I was going to take it to a completely new topic, so you first.
I was going to ask if you were to use a real world or real Andoran location, where would you shoot in the UK? Obviously they're out in Prague, but if you were to actually shoot here, where would you use to double as Andor?
That's a brilliant question. For people on the stream, where would we film in the UK would make a good Andor? I need to think about that. Do you have any?
Buckinghamshire for sure.
Buckinghamshire, Windsor, yes. I think Windsor Castle would make a great Caitlin Castle.
Yeah, there's some great places around. Haworth in Yorkshire, if you've ever heard of it, it's got really nice cobbled places. There's a place down in Sussex called Rye, which is it's just a cobbled seaside town. Obviously, there's no seaside in Andor, but you don't need to show the sea. There's obviously a lot of great castles that you can use. There's one I was at last week actually, Bodenham Castle down in Sussex, which is just the most picturesque castle with a full moat all the way around it. You can
Caerphilly Castle.
Caerphilly, yeah,
Caerphilly. I think that's one of the biggest in the UK.
Yeah. Or Carnarvon Castle is another good one as well. If you know Wales at all, and that's a complete castle. There's no ruination on that one, apart from the fact it's got High Street right next to it.
Does anybody think, when they think of Andor's walls and the palace and that, is anyone thinking of a particular castle, with a setup, for example, the Tower of London, the walls there? Has anyone seen a castle design? I think that would be amazing for the walls of Andor, for example.
I always thought that Cayman looks more like Edinburgh than London because it's all rising up, you know, with the castle top, and like they have the circles around it. So
By the way, folks, they can all hear you now. John did tech, and we're not throwing the mic at you anymore, but they can just hear you through the camera mics.
Okay.
So,
so
I don't have to chase you around
to
anymore.
me, Cameron was always Edinburgh, so I think that the royal family should have a really strong Scottish accent.
Okay.
I'm throwing this out.
Who's been to Edinburgh in the room? Okay, so fair number. All right. So if they filmed in Edinburgh for Andor or scenes in Andor, do we like that idea?
Yeah.
Those that have been, generally, yes. Raise your hands. No, raise your hands. Just Danny. Okay. So those who have been, and Nils, have you been? I don't think you have. Edinburgh. You did? Oh, okay. Are you a no? Are you a no or a yes? For Andor. You're a yes. Okay. So still just Danny then. Yeah. I like that. Okay. Any other points you want to throw out, folks, before we carry on with what we made notes on? Camille, you got something you want to suggest?
I'm not sure it's appropriate, but if something happens to the Queen of Andor, how many paintings do you want to see in each street?
It depends. How long was the previous screen reigning for? You get one for every second that you... No, that's a lot of seconds. But
Oil paintings on every corner.
go for it.
Mine's a random one. So with fantasy, it's always tempting to get the really picturesque. All the examples you've thrown out are the most beautiful areas of England. I'm from Salford, which is notorious being shit up.
I've been to Salford. It's not that bad.
If they were gonna, it is. Kind. If they were gonna be like more realistic, I've noticed that the Two Rivers have a bit more of a northern accent. I'm just wondering what's the Andoran equivalent of like a wheel been on fire.
John. Really been on fire. Tweet that.
The Andorran equivalent of a wheelie bin on fire.
Right.
Yes, got it.
As in places or just...
Just if they were to reflect some of the grittier elements of the British, the non-picturesque of Britain, what would be their equivalent of like antisocial behaviour, wheel bin on fire, graffiti? What would be the Andorran?
Well, I think probably, Camelin, lower city is probably pretty rough in places. Arundel probably isn't great. It's just a port town. It's always got a lot of refugees coming over from Carrion,
Whatever you want to pronounce it.
and some of the like Confray over in the far west, Barlane probably. It's depicted slightly different depending on what you're looking at, but Barlane is described as a mining town with loads of forges, so that would look quite rugged, shall we say?
Rugged's a good word. Does anyone know where Paler lives? That's my question.
Sheriff's Market.
There we go. That's the place that the Andor wheelie bin on fire, where Paler lives.
When we see a guy in front of a pot holding up his pint, just lying there, because that's the most famous image of any Brit ever, isn't it?
There we go, yeah. Don't drop the pipe. So, Elle, do you have any suggestions for a wheelie bin on fire?
A wheelie bin on fire? No, I mean mining's a big part of the Andorran economy. I think it'd be quite interesting, miners' strike, that kind of thing going on.
Do you want to see a miners' strike going through the city of Andor, just in the background somewhere, pickets and things? Yeah. Unionise miners.
Actually, the first time we see Camelin in the books, there is almost a general strike going on. The White Cloaks have stirred up a lot of hatred, and there's a lot of riots going on in the streets. So it's not that far removed.
North, like Wales.
There we
Just
go.
goes in, crosses the picket line.
Can I talk about the Aiel sort of concept?
Yes, that's exactly where I wanted to go to next. That's perfect.
So one of the things that I was thinking about a lot I'm always thinking about, is how they can take the elements from the books and make them better for the TV show, improve. And I think they could do this really well with the contrast between Andor and the Aiel, and how that feeds into Elaine and Avienda's relationship. So there was a mental health in the Wheel of Time panel at WhatCon that I was lucky enough to be a part of, and one of my suggestions for that was that as a way of bringing in mental health into the Wheel of Time, the IEL culture could be a big part of that in terms of the, you know, they're very with it in terms of mental health. You know, therapy is a everyday part of their culture, being open about their feelings, you know, contrasting that whole, you know, they're seen as a very strong society, but they see that as also being like mentally strong, and openness is a big part of that. And then contrasting that very heavily with the typical British, you know, keep calm, carry on, stiff upper lip, you know, repress.
I don't know what you're talking about.
That kind of attitude, and I just think that would be so interesting, because you would see that with Elaine and Avienda's friendship, and you could have such a great dynamic there with, you know, Avienda convincing Elaine that it's okay, you know, to talk about your feelings, your fears, during the succession crisis, you know, that could be a big part of that. I just wanted to get everyone else's thoughts on that. Do you guys have anything to add?
John?
No, it's great. It's a great point. The two societies are very, very, in a lot of ways, very, very polar opposites. You've got, though at the heart of both societies, you do have the keynote of honour. The fact that Elaine, just for an example, Elaine won't take the throne from Rand, won't take the throne when it's offered from Rand, because she feels it's an honour for her to earn it, to prove. And that similarity between her and that type of attitude and what they have in the IEL with Jing To and all that sort of, everything else around it, like the mental health stuff, obviously the IEL have found a way to deal with their honour within that. If they improve for the show, they find a way to deal with it, with the openness and the mental health elements, and the dream walking in a certain way. Whereas Andor, it's honour for honour's sake. It's just you follow the line that your parents are given, and yeah, it's an interesting one. It could be depicted very well in the show, hopefully.
Anyone have a thought they want to add in? Go for it.
I think the idea of contrasting both societies on the perspective on how they deal with their feelings, and it's a very good one for contrast. But the IEL being known for their prowess and warrior society, it doesn't translate, or it doesn't couple with the idea of them also being emotionally balanced. Because traditionally, if you see like the 300 movie with Sparta, all like, ooh, we're the best. They don't go home and talk about, I was really scared today when that guy just stopped. So it's a great idea in concept, but it's difficult to translate into something that we can understand, because we still have the idea that being an excellent warrior also implies that you have a garbage emotional management at home. So that's the difficulty in your concept.
Especially in the visual medium, when you're reading something, you would be able to have inner thoughts and things sort of put down on the page in front of you. The visual medium, obviously, you have to put that verbally, or have some scene added or tweaked so that could be talked about or expressed in some way that a viewer can see, as opposed to just read on a page. So that's a very good point. I love the idea of Elaine starting off being very, very British in respect of, keep calm, carry on, stiff upper lip, all those sorts of things that are, I would say cliche British at this stage, really. But definitely part of the heritage. And then through her friendship with Avienda, having that changed, I think that could be a really nice journey. Who likes the Elaine plot succession story? For those who have got there so far, do you put your hands up if you enjoy the succession part of the books? Yeah, we like it. It's always
faster.
Yeah. Sorry, it just needs to be
a bit faster.
It's not actually that long. It's just there's huge bits of other stories between it.
Yeah.
Like 5 pages between 400. Laura.
Well, to me, that doesn't follow
along with the kind of my view of how Avienda is, talking about mental health, because when she's trying to deal with how she feels about Rand, she's very all over the place. She doesn't seem to have any sort of self-awareness in terms of her feelings, whereas Elaine is also a bit
Writes 2 letters.
binary, like, what, oh, I hate you, I love you, kind of with that. But I feel like, I don't think that if Avienda had that bringing up, that sort of bringing up of, talking about feelings, that she would have had that internal struggle with her feelings about Ran.
But once she finishes that internal struggle, she becomes a wise woman. She almost graduates from mental health college almost.
Yeah. I feel like she needs to have that journey in the well, I see it in the books, but like in the show, that kind of struggle is to being a wise one. But if the Aiel as a culture were always very open about how they're feeling, she wouldn't have that.
No.
So I love the concept. I just don't know how. I mean, obviously, if they change the book, the show, and in terms of that aspect of their culture, then that will work for the show. But I just think if we're talking about kind of from the book's perspective to the show, maybe I don't know.
Yeah, I just add one quick thing, and we'll go at the back there for you. So I think that their relationship between the two of them around Rand, although individually they both start like a bit of whiplash, like yes, no, yes, no, yes, no. Or at least, especially that's how Rand feels. Together, they do actually sort of help each other through that journey of not just I'm in love with a guy, is he in love with me, and all the things you go through in that part of the relationship, but also the dealing with we're both actually going to be with him together, and there's another lady involved as well. So I feel like they help each other a lot there, and that could be a good help with the transition of like, oh, I'm going to be very, very reserved and British at the beginning, playing Elaine, and then through that friendship and that display, the softening of that sort of Britishness, I suppose. So, right at the back there, sorry.
What I was going to say is, if you remember the song parody of the relationship between the women.
Yes.
If you just watch that and not listen to it, you see the difference is in all the women and how they are.
Is this Min's Lament?
Yeah. No, I Shall Follow Him.
I Shall. Oh, yes.
Just watch it.
Yes, from.
You can see how different they are.
Alyssa, yes. Alyssa, who does the parody where she dressed that's an amazing parody. I mean, they're all great. Yeah, that's a very good point as well. Vic?
Yeah, so I was just going to say, in terms of mental health as well, I don't think they are as put together. Because otherwise they wouldn't have the same issues with bleakness and the whole issues with people going mad and not being and dying going through the columns.
Yeah, how many people die going through the columns? It's like 2 and 3.
Yeah, a lot of people do die going through the columns.
All selection you can do to say, I think this person can handle it.
Yeah.
And still 2 and 3
oh no, it's too much truth for me, I'm going to die.
I don't know the actor's name, but is someone at the end going, you can't handle the truth, do not
I would challenge the whole them being the beacons of mental health stability. But I would say that they're probably more with it than the Andor.
Okay.
If we were, I mean, this is talking about making adjustments for the show. Like, of course, we all know what they're like in the books, and you're right. They aren't well. Some of them aren't well adjusted. Hence the bleakness and the shadow. And what all that happens.
Sorry, Mel. Mel's watching.
Oh, sorry, Mel.
She's a co-host. I have to say sorry.
But yeah, just if we're going to be making adjustments for the show to make that difference more to show, because it's going to be very hard to show without being able to read people's thoughts on screen. It's going to be very hard to show what Avienda is thinking, because a lot of the time the Aiel don't show emotion, so it's going to be very hard to show how they are different from, say, Andorans without making them slightly more adjusted, maybe.
Do we like the idea of a more adjusted Aiel for the TV show, or is that too far?
the thing is that currently in the Wheel of Time, there's no civilization that is adjusted like
No,
the topic
no.
of mental health.
That is true.
So it would be nice to have one that is a bit more adjusted than the rest to have some sort of contrast.
Okay, so hands up if you think that should be the ideal, or it should be a different culture that's mentally adjusted. Well, we can't really pick.
Shara.
Nicely done.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a really good topic. Like I love it. I think we've all spit our thoughts now. But I think what the issue is the generality we're making of it instead of being like complexity is drama. Like what's really interesting in drama is complexity. And having a society like that, what's nice about Avienda and Elaine is that Avienda is flawed and isn't like the wise women are trying to get her to a place and to be more honest with herself and things. But the ideal are flawed still. Like they ask things of each other that is almost impossible for the human body to really endure. But then that does mean that they're more blunt and they're more honest and they're more honest with themselves. And what's nice about that dramatically on a TV show is that when you show complexity, an audience relates to it. So like if the ideal are this perfect society and they just are an appeal of honor, you're kind of going to be like, well, that's not believable. Like that doesn't, like you were saying, like, it's not believable to have like a tough society that also is soft. But that's actually really interesting. It's when you have a tough society that's soft. It's something we don't see, and it's just like that's what would be interesting to see things you don't see because that's what we watch TV shows. That's why we read books. That's the whole point.
You could present them in
maybe
one way.
it's part, like maybe the wise ones are the ones that are really like honest about their feelings. Part of the society. Maybe the blacksmiths are really honest about their feelings.
I think having flaws and it's good to have that flaws and good things. It makes it more.
We're getting a little bit more into Aiel than Andor. We're going to steer back towards that.
I've got actually a comment on Twitter.
We have a comment from Twitter. Thank you, folks. We have a comment from Twitter.
So this was in response to what is the Andoran version of a wheelie bin / dumpster. And Simon Dune.
Oh, he's here. Where are you? Simon, put your hand up. Right at the back. There we go.
Well, there we go. So
Say it for us, sir.
I was just going to say that the Andoran for a wheelie bin or dumpster fire is a verb to gallon.
Whoa. Okay, do we have Gowan fans in the building? Put your hands up if you're a Gowan fan. Three. I can't match twice, there's 4. Those people exist. Sorry, I'll come back and go around. Andrew in the back there?
Yeah, I was just going to say, the leaked script showed Avienda and Perry having a conversation, so I think they're going to maybe have Avienda try and coach Perry through his grief about killing Layla.
Close your ears if you don't want leaked script information, folks. Well, not guaranteed. Probably.
Yeah, so they're going to use that as their kind of someone from the warrior culture trying to talk someone through their grief of accidentally killing someone.
Yeah.
Do that.
Nadine?
I think we forget a little bit that we are talking about teenage girls as well, and having been one, and many in the room have, we're not exactly known as paragons of emotions, but
You're not? Let me get you a secret. Teenage boys aren't either, I promise you.
what was interesting for me was to see them sort of coming of age and of responsibilities, either as a wise one or a ruler, and doing that within the constraints of their own societies and actually learning from each other to push back on some of those constraints. So maybe, I don't know how they'll do it in the show because a lot of it is internalized in the books, but I think it would be good to see, and we do later see in how young people in the culture start to adopt the Aiel ways I'm going to be and address as an Aiel, etc. So it would be interesting to see play out in the show how Andorans try and take on some of these cultures that they come into contact with through the course of the story.
Elaine's journey from teenage runaway from the tower to monarch is one of the more visible ones within the story. You can see her development a lot clearer, especially when it comes to the War of Succession, because it's almost Shakespearean in a way, that the way it's told. That I don't know if anyone's familiar with the Shakespeare histories, how for those who aren't familiar with it, in the Shakespearean Henrys, starts off as a playboy and ends up as apparently one of the best monarchs our country's had. And it's almost like that with Elaine's story, that she's going around being flighty sometimes, doing trapeze work and all that, and then ends up growing into a monarch and claiming the throne in her own right. Abby Ender's journey is a lot less clear in that. So you're right, it's going to be interesting to see how they depict it on the screen. Yeah.
We've had a comment on the YouTube stream from Kev, who's watching from Australia. Thank you, Kev. Kev says, have the Tuatha be the well-adjusted ones. The Aiel are the fundamentalist conservative culture. Them being emotionally and socially evolved to that point is questionable at best. And then he called himself a nerd.
Good point.
So Tuatha is well-adjusted culture. I mean, that's a possible one. We are still straying off from the Andor bit, but it's interesting.
Well, the Tuatha one, obviously, when we see them, they're often within Andor, within Perrin's story, and especially in Perrin's story at the beginning, and during the White Cloaks siege in Andor and all that. So.
Pulling it back to Andor now, and because we've got like 20 minutes left. You had a question about food, didn't you, Elliot? Or you raised a question about food, or no, John, you did, and I was like, this is a good idea. So every culture in the Wheel of Time seems to have like a food, really, doesn't it? A lot more a theme for their food. How British do you want the food to be? We've already had, we've had the fish and chips, I was going to say, but the beans on toast. There was a pre-discussion about beans on toast in the chats. So let's start with that. As anyone in the room tried beans on toast, put your hands up if you like beans on toast.
With cheese.
And Marmite. With cheese and Marmite. I've heard eggs. Also, wow. Peanut butter, yes. Okay.
Beans on toast with peanut butter.
And then cheese.
Oh, wow.
I'm sounding suspicious to carry on.
Yes. Who doesn't like beans on toast? And
I haven't tried it.
You haven't tried. Put your hand up if you haven't tried beans on toast. Please try beans on toast while you're here if you can, folks. It's an experience. Grace, you tried it for the first time. Not on toast, but no, just the beans. And what did you think?
It's okay.
It's okay. So polite. That's didn't like it.
It needed the toast.
I mean, it needed the toast and cheese, yes, apparently. So, but I mean, cheese on toast, beans on toast. It's very British. Do we want to see things like fish and chips? Do we want to see steak and ale pies? Do we want to see bangers and mash? Like, how British do you want the food in Andor to be?
Steak and ale, yeah, those sound good. Fish and chips, I think chips, because you need a fryer, that's kind of like too modern in a way.
Too modern? Okay, yeah.
I think that
So, I mean, deep fried fish is very one, so I think see like fish and potatoes is what we're saying, perhaps. Do you want to... Would you like to be able to see the food served whilst in any Andor scene and think, that's British just by looking at it? Put your hands up if you want to see that. Yeah? We like that? Yeah. Roast dinner? Yeah, who said roast dinner, sorry? That nice of you. Okay.
And cups of tea.
With cups of tea?
Only cups of tea.
Earl Grey?
It's the only thing they consume.
Earl Grey, did you say, James, though?
Yes.
Okay. Where's Kayla? You're a tea soulmate with Kayla. She loves Earl Grey. So.
I want to see how we end up with the milk in first.
Okay. For those who aren't aware of tea, there's a big debate, boys. Where do we fall on the tea? Milk in first or second?
Is it even a debate? Like, is it right and wrong?
So, Elliot, which way do you do it?
The milk goes in afterwards.
Milk goes in second. What goes in?
If I'm making it, second.
Okay.
But I don't drink it, so.
Okay, right, all right.
I don't know if they did. I was never really mentioned the back of milk going in. I think it was all herbal, wasn't it?
It all seems
all
herbal teas. We'll find out tomorrow, folks, at the tea panel. They're not covering all the teas, sadly. There's too many to cover. There are actually a lot. Vic, you had a question.
Yeah, so I really want to see them going into the tavern and ordering some food, and someone coming over with a plate, and it's just a filled giant Yorkshire pudding.
Oh,
yes! And the sausage and everything else, all within it. And all the, Emily feels about, oh yeah, this is great. And having someone who's never been there before, like, oh, good.
Well, I like that idea. So a little bit of comedy with food almost. Yeah, I like that's really good. Becky?
I really want to see, like, yes, British food, but multicultural British food, right?
Okay, yeah.
So you've got to have one person sat with a roast dinner and the other person sat there with a chicken tikka masala. You make the curry with all the spices. You've got potato in there. Like you can.
Where are the spices coming from? Spices. A chicken tikka sharon? I don't know. Chicken sharon masala? I don't know. How would you call it? Chicken sharon masala. That's there's a tongue twister, folks.
Mashara.
The sorry?
Mashara.
Mashara. Okay. Nice.
Speaking of chickens, we need to go into a tavern and see a huge fireplace big enough to walk into, and there's a load of chickens on a spit rotating.
We're not talking about cooking chickens this weekend, we're raising money to save chickens' lives. Sorry, Juliet. Geese. I don't, yeah, geese are scary, aren't they? There we go.
Cabbage.
Cabbage.
She wants some
Cabbage on the spit. Boys, is there any food you really want to see?
Well,
I didn't ask them this in advance, by the way.
I'm thinking more just like lots of beer.
Lots of beer. Okay, yeah, ale. There is a difference. For anyone who thinks that British people drink warm beer, wrong. We don't.
It can only be about 1-2% beer though.
Now, what you're thinking about, that's real hand-pulled ales, and they're not, they don't run through super chilled lines. I'm getting very technical here. I've worked in a bar for years. They don't run through the super chilled lines that lager runs through these days. They just run direct from the cellar, which is not kept at 2 degrees, it's kept at 10 degrees or 11 degrees. Hence, your beer is not as cold as a lager that comes through a modern tap. That's why people think British people drink warm beer. But do you want to see warm beer in Andor?
Yes.
Yes?
How they make it cold.
Well, how would they? Wouldn't make it cold. That's a good point. So, thank you. I didn't think of that. Yes?
Because I think with a foreigner perspective, for me to see Andor as Britain or something like that, they should play on the cliches.
Okay.
Because you know the differences in speech, the differences in food, for me I cannot relate that to Britain. So they really have to put emphasis on the cliches. And I think the beer one is warm beer one, so it's a very good cliche.
The warm. So which country would have cold beer? Then they could come in and be like, why is this beer not cold?
Saldea.
Saldea. Oh yes. So a Saldean coming in, Fail coming in and drinking a pint of beer is an interesting image. But perhaps a Saldean saying, why is my beer not cold? Because they have access to ice. So that's a good point. Yes.
It could be an interesting with the food. It could be an interesting start to the introduction to Cayman, because in the books the riots are happening because there's a food shortage in Cayman. So if they all arrive in Cayman and they're being served nothing but porridge, for example, and yet then we see Elaine having full British banquet kind of setting.
That could definitely play into that. Sorry, Camille, you wanted to add something?
Do we want to see a pub crawl?
A pub crawl?
Like going from pub to pub.
I mean,
not just following.
That kind of happens at the beginning of Rand and yes.
We want that to happen in Cayman.
Do we? Okay, so when Rand and Man are going through Cayman, do we want to see them as a montage of asking people silently with music playing over, or do you want to see them in a pub being like, I'm looking for a Queen's blessing. I'm going. That's a very bad imitation of a drunk person. I'm not like that, I promise. But yeah, would we like to see an actual pub crawl through inns of Cayman?
Yeah,
so many.
Slowly getting so drunk and like, we have to find
yeah, just to hide the fact that he's ill. I like that, yeah.
And at the end, you can have them stop by a kebab shop and just...
There'd be skewered rats, wouldn't there? Because of the food shortage, so...
Isn't that how they put in kebabs anyway?
Depends where you go, to be honest, yeah. Hopefully you're not getting skewered rat when you get a kebab. Anyone is, please ask for a refund and donate it. Anything else on the food or drink anybody wanted to add? Or because I like the cliche idea that you brought up. Really, really cliche food that obviously fits the kind of deep fried fish, but you can have, perhaps the Yorkshire pudding thought of everything, or
deep fried Mars bar.
Deep fried Mars bars.
We can't fry chips, but Mars bars.
Deep fried Mars bars, yeah, Mars bars exist.
Hey, you got the power. They've probably got oil.
Oh, now there's a fun segment next year. Cooking with the one power. Yeah, panel ideas for next time, folks. Let me just write that down. I'm going to lose that, and someone will pick it up and be like, one power deep frying, you know? That's a good segue to the next panel that's happening shortly. So we'll have to remember that one. That's good fun. So we've got like 10 minutes left. Do you want to wrap up with anything, guys, in particular?
Yeah, just one last thought on the food thing.
Yes.
I think it's always a really good visual element within shows like Wheel of Time to show marketplaces and what foods they show. So Kingdom Marketplace would be full of fresh veg and like cabbages, lots of cabbages.
Yes.
Apples.
Oh, you know,
apples.
You can eat apples, yeah, lots of pears, apples, not peaches, never peaches.
What you should have though, you should have one guy selling peaches with a completely full display. Literally like, or a sign saying, I need to try and just get rid, please take one for free. You know? And everyone avoiding like they're actively working around, they're going down, peach swaps, you know. And then just strolls through whistling. You know. I would love that. That would be great. You know?
Excess peaches due to shipping order.
Yes, there we go. Excess peaches. Please have 3 peach with every order. No one's ordering from the shop. Yeah, it would be, without saying why, and people would be like, "Why is that peach guy not selling? Like, why are people avoiding him?" That would be a fun. I like that. Is anyone enjoying that? Nice.
But yeah, you got that, and then you can also show when you go to different locations, like say Tyr, you've got just a fish market, or just really different markets as you're going around showing different foods.
Markets would be a great idea to show the different cultures. I really like that idea. I mean, I love food, obviously. So who doesn't love food?
Who doesn't?
Yeah. So that's a great concept with different markets. Do you have anything to add on that, Elliot? Or?
Just that, I think that the main thing will be showing like the contrast between different, like, you know, we're going to Andor this time, but it's only going to like stand out if as much attention food-wise or like culture-wise and everything is going into like every different culture, I think, and that would be. I mean, I hope the production team are thinking in detail, as much detail as we are, and this is like.
I mean, I need food video ideas, so I need to do it. You know.
I mean, surely we could also talk about like clothing, because that would be like a major contrast in terms of, you know, like sort of from Asian cultures to, you know, like Nordic cultures, you know, the different types of clothing. You know, for us, you know, what would our typical clothing be? You know.
Tracksuit. Depending on where you are in the UK.
I think there was something on this in like Andor's, like it's all woolen, it's cloaks. It is more like a typically like cover up. Like,
yeah, but how could we take it further with like? I mean, we could have like an Adidas stripe down there.
This is like the Starbucks cup situation now. Those Adidas tracksuit is what it is, isn't it?
and everything.
Is there anything typically like British in terms of clothing that we
They're
could
selling Greg's uniforms at Primark, so.
Yes.
What were you saying? Sorry, I missed that.
They're selling Greg's uniforms at Primark.
Greg's uniforms at
As
Primark.
well, so.
Okay.
Growing trade in fake town.
A glowing trade in fake tan. I mean, we don't have photographs, sadly, but that would be great, wouldn't it? So is there anything else quintessentially British in terms of clothing that you would think would fit? Yeah, that stripe and such is going to fit.
Tweed or tartan or something like that.
Tweeds, tartans, okay, yeah, like that. In just general day-to-day wear or like military wear?
You could have it on the palace guards, that'd be good.
Yeah.
Tartan on the palace guards.
Yeah, I mean, that'd be a good mix with beefeat or baguette, so tartan and a big black hat, you know, so.
Just say we need to go with the umbrellas.
Sorry?
If we're going to go with the rain, we need to go with the umbrellas.
Oh, okay, do we have umbrellas in Wheel of Time? I feel like...
Parasols.
Yeah.
I think that's the closest you go to an actual umbrella, isn't it? So.
But not for rain. I think they have them like
for the sun. Yeah, for whole place of sun. So okay, you would have to get like a a waterproof version, you know, for
Yeah.
an umbrella for not once a week.
Ponchos.
We're going to have those waterproof ponchos with the hood up and you're not going to work, I don't think. So, but I like that idea at the tartan. I think that's a great idea. I think it would be more fun to have it in the general population than in the military stuff, personally. I don't know how you two feel about that.
I agree.
What about the military having the bear skins?
The best, well, yeah, that's what we said. So, you know,
did you? Sorry.
Yeah, like the red and the white for the guards, because I mean that's kind of mentioned and stuff in the books
Yeah.
anyway. But that's what they wear. But then you could throw in, you know, the tartan and other things like that in, you know, the general population just wearing it for fun. I mean, you know, tartan's great. And it comes in so many different varieties, so you could just have subtle pieces in there. It would work really well. So, I like that.
Just
The
had
hounds
a
have a different one. Sorry.
a thought on like just a scene with Avienda looking at an umbrella, like what the heck? Just like genuinely like one of those, sometimes so much water falls from the sky that we need one of these.
Because it's wings, like opening up and going inside out.
Yeah. She's already going to be scared enough, like water falls from the sky, and you want to stop that with something? That could be a great discussion. She just goes into the wardrobe like, you wear too many silks, and these spears are not sharp at all. What is this? Is this, how does that protect you as a spear?
Like, you don't open them inside.
Going around outside, pushing it up so it forms like a
Because she wants to catch all brains, but I'm saving this for later.
So there's like, you're all doing it wrong.
It just makes sense.
That's a brilliant image. Okay, any final thoughts, guys, on the representation of Andor as British? It's not going to be Andor.
I've got nothing we can I'll drop it.
I think we'll wrap it up there. That's kind of perfect. So thank you for listening. Thank you for adding in ideas. It's, you know, that's what I wanted from this. So I hope you enjoyed. Go take a 5-minute break, chill, visit the coffee bar, whatever. The next panel starts at 10 past. So you've got just under 15 minutes to relax and enjoy, just getting to know each other some more. And I say, yeah, go have coffees or whatever, and stretch your legs. And next up, we have Confessions of the Power. So, which I think is going, I hope. I didn't think we'd get Avienda of Umbrella, but I thought it would be funny in this panel. But I feel like we've set the bar high. No, yeah. Folks, I hope, thank you. Skip over to the next stream. I need some music to play in the middle, don't I? I think there's a button on the wall that does it as well. Nice one, guys. Yeah,